You start keto, and suddenly your hair is everywhere, in the shower, on your pillow, in your hands. At first, you ignore it. You tell yourself it's nothing. Maybe just seasonal, maybe just stress. But then it keeps happening. More strands, more shedding, more panic. And now you're standing there thinking, did keto just destroy my hair? It's a fair question, because from the outside, it feels like everything was going fine. You made a healthy change, you started losing weight, you felt more in control, and then suddenly, this. Hair falling out, confidence dropping, doubt creeping in. And this is the moment where most people make a decision. They either panic or they try to understand what's really happening. Because here's the truth most people never hear clearly. In many cases, this is not damage. This is a transition. And if you understand it properly, it changes the way you see everything that's happening in your body. This is one of the most common concerns I see. Men and women both, different ages, different backgrounds, but the same story. They walk in stressed, sometimes visibly anxious, holding strands of hair, saying, I started keto, and now my hair is falling out. And you can hear it in their voice. There's fear, there's frustration, sometimes even regret, because they thought they were doing something good for their health. And now it feels like their body is reacting in the worst possible way. So naturally, they blame the diet. They assume keto is the problem. Some people stop immediately. Others start searching for quick fixes. Special shampoos, hair treatments, supplements, anything that promises to stop the shedding. But before you react like that, you need to understand something very important. What's happening here is not random, and in most cases, it's not permanent. Your hair doesn't just grow and fall out randomly. It follows a very specific cycle, a cycle that's constantly running, whether you notice it or not. There's a growth phase where the hair is actively growing and getting stronger. There's a transition phase where growth slows down, and then there's a resting phase where the hair prepares to fall out. At any given moment, most of your hair is in the growth phase. A smaller percentage is transitioning, and a small amount is resting, getting ready to shed. That balance is what keeps your hair looking full and stable. You lose some hair every day, but it's replaced at the same time, so you never really notice it. But this balance can be disrupted, and when it is, things start to change. One of the biggest triggers for that disruption is stress. Now, when people hear the word stress, they usually think about emotional stress, work pressure, lack of sleep, personal issues. And yes, those things matter. But the body also experiences stress in a very physical way. Changes in metabolism, inflammation, hormonal shifts. All of these are forms of stress to the body. And when that stress becomes significant enough, it can push a large number of hair follicles out of the growth phase and into the resting phase at the same time. That's when shedding becomes noticeable. Not because something is suddenly destroying your hair, but because a large number of hairs have been synchronized into falling out together. And this is where keto comes into the picture. When you start a ketogenic diet, your body goes through a major shift. It's not a small adjustment. It's a complete metabolic transition. Your insulin levels drop, your blood sugar stabilizes. Your body switches from relying on glucose to burning fat for fuel. This is a powerful change. And in the long term, it's incredibly beneficial for many people. But in the short term, it can be stressful, especially if your body was used to a completely different way of functioning. If you were insulin resistant, if you had chronic inflammation, if your metabolism was already struggling, then this shift can feel even more intense. It's like your body suddenly saying, we're changing everything now. And while that change is moving you in a healthier direction, it can still trigger a temporary stress response. That stress response can affect your hair cycle. It can push more hairs into the resting phase, and weeks later, those hairs begin to fall out. That's why this feels so confusing, because the shedding doesn't happen immediately. There's a delay. What you're seeing now was actually triggered earlier, and during that time, you didn't feel anything unusual. There was no warning, no visible sign, until the shedding started. Now, here's the part that most people don't understand. Your hair is not just influenced by stress. It's heavily controlled by hormones, and not just one hormone, a network of them working together. Insulin plays a major role. Testosterone plays a role. Estrogen plays a role. And something many people overlook, vitamin D also plays a role. These are not isolated systems. They are deeply connected to how your body processes energy, stores fat, and regulates growth. When insulin levels are chronically high, which is very common in people with metabolic issues, it affects how these other hormones function. It can interfere with their balance. It can limit their availability, and it can reduce their effectiveness at the level of the hair follicle. In simple terms, even if your body has the hormones it needs, they're not always being used properly. Your hair follicles depend on a steady supply of signals to grow, repair, and maintain strength. When those signals are disrupted, growth slows down. Hair becomes weaker, and over time, shedding can increase. This is where keto actually becomes part of the solution, because one of the most powerful effects of a ketogenic diet is lowering insulin. And when insulin levels come down, that hormonal environment starts to change. Those fat-based hormones are no longer being held back in the same way. They can circulate more freely. They can reach the tissues that depend on them, including your hair follicles. This creates a better environment for growth, a more stable foundation for stronger hair over time. But here's the paradox. The same process that improves your long-term hormonal health can trigger short-term shedding, because the body is adjusting, it's recalibrating, it's moving from one state to another. And during that transition, you may see temporary changes that feel alarming. One of those changes is hair shedding. But this is where perspective matters. Because while you're seeing hair fall out, something else is happening at the same time. New hair is already beginning to grow. It's happening beneath the surface, at the level of the follicle. You just can't see it yet. Hair growth is slow. It takes time for new strands to emerge, time for them to become visible, time for them to restore the fullness you're used to seeing. And this delay creates confusion, because all you notice is the loss, not the regrowth that's already in progress. This is the stage where many people make a mistake. They panic. They assume things are getting worse. They lose trust in the process, and they either stop what they're doing or they start adding things that don't actually address the root cause. Expensive shampoos, topical treatments, quick fixes that promise immediate results. But by the time they start using those products, their body has already begun correcting the issue internally. The cycle has already shifted. The regrowth phase has already started. And when the new hair finally becomes visible, those products get the credit, even though the real change was happening beneath the surface all along. If you step back and look at the bigger picture, the focus becomes clearer. Instead of chasing quick fixes, you need to support the systems that actually control hair growth. That means addressing insulin levels, reducing inflammation, creating a stable hormonal environment, and making sure your body has what it needs to function properly. One of the first things I look at in people dealing with hair changes is vitamin D. It's often overlooked, but it plays a significant role, not just in bone health or immunity, but in hormone signaling and hair follicle function. Low levels can contribute to poor hair growth, and correcting that can make a difference over time. So if you're experiencing hair shedding after starting keto, the most important thing you can do is understand what your body is going through. This is not a random failure. It's not your body breaking down. In many cases, it's your body adapting, shifting from a state that wasn't working well to one that is more balanced. And that shift takes time. It's not always smooth. It doesn't always feel comfortable, but it's part of a larger process. So instead of reacting with fear, pause. Look at the bigger picture, because what feels like a setback right now may actually be a step forward. And on the other side of this transition, in many cases, is stronger, healthier hair than before.